Hey everybody, this is Dr. Jay Greenstein coming to you live from Washington, D.C., the U.S. nation's capital, and I am so happy today to have a couple of good friends.
Hi, Jay.
Tim.
Yep. You actually blanked out for a second and you froze, so we weren't sure if we completely lost you or not, so hence the hesitation. Sorry
I'm
about
back,
that.
buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Sorry about that.
It's all good.
We're
And
here.
we're with Dr. Beth Antione as well. Hey, Beth.
Hi, how are you?
So you guys are in some upper Midwest region called Minnesota. And how's the weather over there?
Minnesota.
Minnesota. How's the weather?
We are having a record month of snow. Record month of snow. We're probably at about 22 inches of snow so far for this month.
Wow.
And I think the all-time record is like right around 29 inches or so overall for like maybe the whole winter. I'm not sure, but we're getting...
And more is coming tonight, apparently, so yeah, we'll see what happens.
Man, I need to put my skis and, like, get over there. Do a little skiing.
I got a bed for you, man. Come on over.
All right. I love it. I appreciate it, bro. Okay, so listen, today we're going to talk about the FICS Education Commission. Tim, you've been involved in chiropractic and sport for a really, really long time. You've been involved in FICS for a long time. Can you, Beth, give us, an update on what's going on with the FICS Education Commission?
Well, the FICS Education Commission has been around for a long time. My predecessor was Dr. Brian Nook, and I had the honor of following him and learning from him. And he was the chair of the Education Commission for quite some time. I was invited to come on as assistant chair or vice chair, whatever the language was at that time. And in 2008, I then transitioned from the vice chair into the chair position. So it's been a little bit more than 10 years run of being in the chair position. I did step away for a short time when I was the dean of the chiropractic program at Northwestern, but came back as the chair. And over that time, we've seen a lot of different changes. We've seen changes of the Education Commission go from a number of videos that were on VHS tapes to reshooting all of our content in Perth, Australia in 2003 and burning all this content onto CD-ROMs. And there were 27 CDs that we were sending out to doctors of chiropractic internationally to earn the international certificate. And then in 2009, when I moved back from Australia back to America, we realized that, man, the content needs to be updated. And so we used Dr. Tom Hyde's textbook as one of the primary learning devices, which was published in 2007. So the content was still fairly fresh. And that's what the current ELS or electronic learning system is based on. Well, it's been a while since we've updated it. And so we're overdue for updating it. And right now we've got experts around the world rebuilding content for us. Beth, as our education fellow, has been doing an awesome job of taking all this information, drafting questions, formulating the new online module, and we're getting ready to launch it any month.
So guys, tell me, or tell really the audience, why a sports chiropractor would want to go through this training. Like, what's in it for them?
What's in it for them? There's a lot of real good foundational information, right? It's at a certificate level. So at a certificate level, they're not going to become really a black belt in sports chiropractic. They're going to have a foundational knowledge of those key elements that we feel. And when I say we, I'm talking about the entire Education Commission, and then further supported by the Executive Commission of FICS. But we feel that we need approximately about 120 hours, roughly, of educational content to establish a certificate level of training for these doctors. And it's somewhat based on, Jay, of what we've accumulated over decades, really, of providing international care at international events, whether it be the Olympics or the World Games or Pan Am Games and other regional international games. And we have found that the three primary hands-on elements or interventions that are offered at these international games are: one, joint manipulation. That makes sense, right? And a lot of extremity manipulation. Secondly, a lot of soft tissue work. And some pretty creative soft tissue work, if I will add, and then strapping, rigid strapping, kinesiology strapping, dynamic taping strapping, or biomechanical strapping. And so for our hands-on module, what we're going to see a change in 2019, this year, in fact, probably even as early as our Australia program in May, we're going to see the content lean really hard towards those three hands-on components. We're trying to standardize our hands-on components in a much greater way so that if my students, in other words, the FICS students, take a course in Australia, I know it's the same content, 80% at least, similar to what it would have been in Europe or in Asia or even in the Americas.
So you're really training doctors for that practical application of the skills they learn, so they can actually work these international games or even local games, you know, in their own town if they want to. Does taking this course get you a certification? And does that certification allow you to then work games through FICS? What's the process there, Tim?
Right. So the minimum credential that's needed that Tim Ray is a doctor of chiropractic, sports chiropractor, longtime FICS chiropractor. He is the chair of the Education Commission. And what he's looking for applications, Jay, when you want to go work the World Games, he's going to look at your application. And the first thing he's going to look for is, do you have the minimum international certificate, right? And currently we're calling it the ICCSP. And we are probably going to go through a name change and rebranding. We can discuss that later if you want, Jay.
Sure.
But minimum is the international certificate training. And then he's going to look at other elements, such as, have you worked at international games before? And if so, what sports do you feel comfortable with? Do you know any other languages? So if you haven't done an interview with Tim Ray, I think that would be very educational too for our constituents.
Yeah, we'll definitely get Tim on here very, very shortly. You said that he was the chair of the Education Commission, but you actually meant Games Commission. Yes,
I meant
Tim?
Games Commission. Thanks, Jay, for correcting me on that. Yep.
Yeah, no worries. So you mentioned a rebrand. I can empathize. I'm going through a rebrand of my own company right now, so I know what a challenge and what a series of tasks and objectives and goals it takes to get through that process. Tell me what's going on with the rebrand with FICS.
Well, rebranding, as you know, you're going through it right now. It's always a risk, isn't it? Because
Sure.
You've already created an amount of blue sky and probably some good emotion in your community about your current brand. And now you've got a crazy idea like, well, let's change the name. Let's change the colors. Let's change the logo color. And maybe it's not so crazy. Maybe it's the most brilliant thing that you could do for your organization. For FICS, we had decided many years ago, roughly around 2012 or so, 2011, 2012, we felt that there might have been some confusion with the American CCSP and what was called the ICSSD, the International Chiropractic Sports Science Diploma. That was the original international certificate name. And through a number of leaders amongst FICS, we felt, well, let's see if we can clarify a little bit and lessen some of the confusion between the American CCSP and an international certificate. So we did back in 2012 make a change in the ICSSD to the ICCSP. And what we did learn.
I lost you.
Oh, are you there now? What was the last thing you heard, Jay? Yeah, you're kind of fading in and out. I'm not sure if we're locking up on your end. What do you think, Jay? I see you now. Do you hear us or see us? Do you hear us or see us?
Tim, are you back?
Yeah. Do you hear us?
Yeah, we lost you for a good minute or so.
Yeah.
Can you? Do you mind just going through that rebrand piece real quick?
Yeah. So I think you may have heard that it's always a risk to potentially change your brand because of your previous branding efforts. Well, back in 2012, we did rebrand from the ICSSD to the ICCSP because we thought it would be less confusing, especially for the American CCSPs, to gain and earn an international, what now is the ICCSP, the International CCSP. And it actually turned out to probably not solve that problem of lessening the confusion. It may have kept the same amount of confusion or maybe even made it a little bit more confusing. And so we are rebuilding all of our international online content. We are not completely redoing, but we're molding the hands-on content for the hands-on program. For example, I mentioned that in Australia. And so we're really changing a large majority of the educational content. And we're hoping then with that change, we might as well also consider a rebrand. And so we are looking at new credentials. We will be making the announcement formal in March in Berlin.
That's awesome. I'm psyched to go to Berlin. I've never been there before, so I'm excited to see everybody and also learn a lot more about the rebrand. I know there's been a lot of hard work done by Graham and Pete and you and the rest of the executive board to just really take FICS to the next level. And I'm very appreciative and very grateful to have folks like you in our profession that are really moving the needle for sports chiropractic and the athletes that we serve. You mentioned about, the new content. I mean, the evidence changes all of the time. So what would you recommend in terms of doctors out there? How often should they go through this educational content and retake some of these courses because there's new material?
Right. You're right. What's also equally important, Jay, I'm glad that you're involved with FICS and everything that you do domestically here in the States as well. You're crazy busy. I think we really need to make sure we bring the right young people into FICS as well and continue that momentum. So I'm looking forward to turning over a lot of the microphone and camera to Beth here, who can introduce herself in a bit. To answer that question about taking this new content, even if they already have they as in the FICS constituents, if they already hold that international certificate, and even though we as the Education Commission do not require them to do continuing ed, I think all of us watching this can agree that we need to continually learn, right? We constantly need to learn. And especially with head injury content, for example, there is some content amongst this 120 hours that is incredibly volatile. It's changing all the time. And I would say of all the content that we deliver, the head injury content is probably the most volatile. We literally could probably rebuild the head injury module every 6 months and provide you with new content. And so we're hoping with this new platform that we're able to do it at least on a yearly basis and provide you with the latest and greatest content, right? And just like one point of discussion, and that is, do we rest our athlete or do we not rest our athlete? Do we send them to school right after a head injury or do we hold them out for a certain period of time? And if so, what is that duration of period of time? And so that content, the research is always expanding. It's great. I really applaud those that are doing that type of research. But it's our job as Education Commission to make sure we stay on top of that and then make sure we deliver that content appropriately to our FICS constituents.
That's great, Tim. Thanks. And I definitely want to get Beth on camera. Beth, sounds like you're doing some amazing things. Tell us about the work that you've done and what the goals are moving forward.
Yeah, so basically what I've been working on is redesigning the ELS, so the electronic learning system. As Dr. Stark said, the material was kind of out of date, so we really needed to have it updated. So putting this all on a new platform allowed us to create 10 different modules, anything from head injuries, upper extremity injuries, lower extremity injuries, etc. And it just really allows us to get that information out to people in a more timely fashion. So I've been working to collect the most recent literature as well as information from sports docs all over the world to create the best possible modules for people.
That's phenomenal. It's so great to have the technology and using the most advanced technology like these ELSs in order to update content. Because like Tim, you were mentioning earlier about VHS tapes and DVDs, it's like I can't even imagine what it took to update the information in using those formats. But Beth, now that you have this ELS system at your disposal, it must be significantly easier, yes?
It's easier to update for sure. There's a lot of legwork on the front end here, kind of transferring all the material, putting it in the right formats, making everything look amazing, basically. But it's in the long run, it's going to be worth it because we can update stuff and we'll be able to update and keep things fresh and make sure that docs have the most recent information.
So it sounds like you are doing all of the legwork, collecting all the literature, getting all the most recent, what I would call Delphi process information from expert providers out there. I want people to understand how much effort that takes. So if you were researching a topic or a module and updating it, like how many hours would that take you, Beth?
So every module is a little bit different in length, but on average, it's about, for 1 hour of content, it takes me anywhere between 40 and 80 hours to put an hour of content online.
Wow. So for anybody who's taken this course or taken the modules, for anybody who's going to be taking these modules in the future, and we highly recommend that you do, you got to give Beth a huge shout out when you see her because she is the brains behind the brawn.
I'm trying.
For sure.
I think you're doing more than trying, young lady. I think you're doing a great job. So thank you for all you do.
Okay.
Well, guys, before we close out today, any final thoughts about FICS, the Education Commission, the certification that you're rebranding, anything else that you want to let the audience know about?
I personally would like to continue your applause to Beth. Beth, I feel like, I've been the chair for roughly that 10-year span, and we in FICS, just so our constituents know, we do value the turnover of chairs of commissions. FICS also realizes that we cannot turn over the chair commission of the education too fast, as fast as some of the education, or as fast as some of the other commissions. That continuity is really important to carry it over from year to year. So I know FICS has in place of replacing chairs, I think every 2 years. And at the Education Commission together said 2 years is going to be too frequent. We thought maybe 4 years might be appropriate. Well, I'm coming up on a decade. And so I'm looking forward to some degree, maybe stepping back away a little bit from the chair commission. I really adore the position. I adore the Education Commission. We have an awesome commission of international providers from all over the world. So hats off to them for sure, because they're testing what she's putting together. Dr. Antone's putting together some awesome content, as we've discussed. And then we send it out to the Education Commission and a few other people on our campus here at Northwestern to test the environment, make sure that it's checking all the boxes, if you will, and it's truly functional. So we have an awesome Education Commission from constituents around the planet. But stepping away, we're hoping that as we move forward, that this young doc right here is going to be the future of the Education Commission.
Well, you guys are like the dynamic duo, and it looks like you've got a great succession plan in place. So congratulations. And again, Dr. Stark and Dr. Antone, thank you so much for all that you do. You are both remarkable. Looking forward to talking to you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
All right.
All right.